Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Say to our panel, we have good attendance up here, so we're going to be talking about a lot of systems, and I'll kind of start off on one, Admiral Greenert, that I think has changed quite a bit, and that's the JSOW program. I think a year ago, they were talking about adding 4,400 or so of the JSOWs, and that was in the 15 budget. I don't remember, what is the current inventory of them? If we were going to get, how many more would that represent when you said 4,400?
I have to get you those numbers.
I mean, is it like 2,000 now, or?
We benchmark against the combat requirement, and again, I got to get you the number.
Okay, that's fine, but I guess my point is, if we were talking about projecting in last year's budget, 4,432 more of the JSOWs over the life of the program, which would have included at that time, because we had in this budget 200 to be bought, then all of a sudden, at least it was to me, the program was terminated. And I'm just wondering what has happened that that caused that not to be a necessary component as it was considered to be before now.
Well, we had to take some chances, and I'm not happy at all. We don't have enough munitions. I'm very concerned about it, and I think I expressed it. But the point was, we felt we're at the combat expenditure. We watch very closely how many we use during the year. When I say combat, I mean we have enough for what we believe would be the modeled number, and that can we reconstitute the line, and we felt we could. So we're taking risk. It's not good.
That's a good point. You're adding risk by having to do this. You would prefer not to.
I'd prefer not to. I have risk in other munitions that are just as bad. It's not a good picture, Senator.
Yeah, no, that's right. Senator Reid talked about, General Dunford, about the F-35, just to elaborate a little bit more. That would actually be there in replacing the F-18s, is that correct? And the EA-6Bs?
And the AV-8s, Senator. It'll replace all three aircraft, all of which are over 20 years old.
All right. Yeah, that's right. 23 years old, the F-18s, and the E-6Bs, 27. So, and you've looked at the missions of all of these, and you're satisfied that these missions are going to be met with this change and getting rid of the older, but the F-35 is going to be capable of doing that.
Well, Senator, it'll do that, but it's probably also important to point out that this actually doesn't just replace the F-18, the AV-8, or the EA-6. It's a fundamentally different capability. It's a transformational capability. It'll do everything that those three aircraft will do, but also in terms of the information environment, it'll do a significant amount more for the Marine Air Ground Task Force.
When we had you talked about Admiral Greenert, you talked about the pilots, and we'll have a pilot shortage. You've talked to the Air Force and the problems that they're having right now. Are your problems similar to that?
They are. What happens is people get deployed. They're flying all the time. In fact, they're flying so much, working up quickly to go on deployment. Some of them say, I can't even get a wheel done. And then when we come back, we shut down. Yeah. And they sit around here and they look out on the tarmac, and there's a Super Hornet. They'd love to be flying, but we don't have the funding to provide that. And they say, what's with this? It's not what I signed up for.
That's the same thing that General Walsh talked about.
It is, yes, sir.
It's the same situation. Now, tell me if this is true, because I remember bringing this up, kind of comparing the cost of replacing some training versus retention. As I understand, the 10 years of the retention or bonus was around $250,000. That's in the Air Force. Is that comparable to the Navy?
It's comparable. We have the same thing.
Yeah. And then also the training, if you take them to F-22 capability, is going to be something like $17 million. I mean, we look up here, we look at the economics of this thing, and obviously it's far better if we can retain these people rather than to go through training. Have you thought of anything specifically that would help you in that respect?
We have, yes, sir. And so we use the term, we want to optimize what we call as our training plan, our fleet response training plan. And you hit the nail on the head. It's getting the flying done more consistently throughout. Keep them, if you will, busy, proficient, that they feel a part, they have a predictable future out there. instead of a cycling process as they get ready to deploy.
Yeah, and that's the message I get when I talk to those. We know there's a lot of competition with the airlines. We know that in the training, it's a supply and demand thing. So,
Senator, excuse me, a consistent budget will really help us be able to do that. Consistency is key.
absolutely, I understand that. And you said, General Dunford and Senator McCain asked you some specific questions about it, but you said, and I wrote it down, funding below the president's budget will require a new strategy. And you answered a couple of questions about some of the specifics, but what would an overall new strategy look like? What are we talking about?
Well, Senator, what I really meant was that on a day-to-day basis, we wouldn't have the Marines that are forward deployed to meet the assure allies part of the strategy and to respond to crisis part of the strategy. And then we would have fewer forces than would be required to meet a single major contingency. And so, in my mind, that does, from a Marine Corps perspective, drive the need for a new strategy.
Yeah, I understand.
So it's a capacity issue as well as a readiness issue.
Okay, my time's expired, but if you want to expand on that for the record, please do, because that'd be something that we need to be equipped with here. Thank you.
We'll do that, Senator. Thank you.
Senator Manager.